How do we begin a speech? How do we sustain the interest of people? How do we get from, well, standing up there in the first place and getting their attention and keeping it? 10 ways to start a speech. If you watch this until the end, you'll be more than thankful. You'll not just have 1, 2, 3, but 10 ways of how to start a speech. Not only that, you'll also be able to make ideas for yourself of how to get that perfect speech out there and content for that speech, because indeed every speech is not the same. I cannot tell you exactly which or what content you are going to speak about. That's up to you. You know what you're speaking about. But you need to enthrall the audience. You need to interest them and keep them interested as you go. So how do you start it? 10 ways to do it. Let's get cracking straight into the first one. Thank everybody. Yeah, just thank everybody. Thank everybody in the audience. I mean, think about it. Bad comedians, well, sometimes they go out and they joke. They just do this. They like pick somebody out of the audience and they say, hey, you bald guy, come over here. You know, I mean, come on. Or, hey, you with the funny looking shirt. In my case, it's the unusual purple, but very successful at that. So if you pick somebody out of the audience, you actually are buying yourself time, and you're also just making an example of somebody. So it's up to you in that speech, of course, to try and be positive and to make an example of them in a positive light. Why? Because at the end of the day, you want them to memorize as much as you're actually saying, but also that you become the sayer, the good messenger, the person who knows exactly what they're talking about. Why? Because you can come back and do another speech. You can tell them more interesting things and therefore promote your business brand or whatever else it is. So that's the first thing. You need to be able to start by perhaps, number one, getting a person to come out of the audience, or a person actually just, making a joke of them. But be positive. Rather than say, hey, bald guy, just compliment them on their, shiny brow. Or just go another route, talk about their clothing, how nice they look today. Second way that you can start a speech is tell them, the audience that is, how your morning and your day went. So let's take an example. If it's an evening speech and here you are, it's 6, 7 o'clock in the evening, you might be in a new town. You might say, hey, this morning I woke up at 8 a.m. It was really rainy outside. Any of you guys outside at 8 a.m.? Because I was outside and I was thinking about this speech. And that means I was thinking about, well, you. And if I'm thinking about you, I am thinking about you all day. From the morning at 8 a.m. right up until 6 p.m. in the evening, the Savo. So basically what you're saying is that you are thinking about them from the word go, which shows a caring approach. Now, look, the reality is this is just the second of my 10 top tips to start a speech. But you need to show your care anyway. And I mean, look, let's face it. If your content is good enough, if you actually enjoy what you're speaking about, if you're the expert in what you're speaking about, and let's face it, how would they ask you to be the speech or the person to make that speech, speechwriter or whatever in the first place? I mean, you have to have some sort of level of expertise or knowledge for them to ask you there. So with that, you shouldn't be that nervous, especially if you have a good opening. So let's go to the third good opening. You could tell them a joke. All right, a little bit like the first reason. Tell them a joke. Be funny. Are you funny? Maybe you're not. I don't know. I'm sure you are. I hope you're laughing at me, for example. But anyway, well, I have to make a joke, says you. Well, what is the joke? What would I make in a speech? It depends again on the content. It could be, for example, today I was, in this new place, the place where I am here for this lovely speech, and I thank you guys for accepting me to come here. And I was enjoying a walk this morning, and as I was enjoying the walk, there I was, and I looked across the bay and saw your opposite parish, your community, your opposite team in sports, whatever it was, and I thought to myself, you know what, these guys are really competitive in ball. They play ball against each other each year, and it's tough, it's competitive, but I love this place where I am right now. And straight away you're telling people in the audience that you like where you are. You're happy to be invited as a guest. You You like their team more than the opposite team, than the opposing team, by the next community's team, the next area's team, whatever. So you're opening with positivity, and you're opening by complimenting them. Another way, a fourth way of starting a speech is beg them to listen and to laugh in the speech. Are you kidding me? Beg, beg, beg. Yes, I would say beg. Why? Because at the end of the day, if you're nervous, that's what's going to show on your face. It's going to show through your body language. It's going to show throughout you. Trust me. If you have more than one person there, if you have, say, 20 people, if all you have is 20 people, by having 20 people, they are going to just synergistically, if there's such a word, analyze you. Each one of those 20 people are individuals. It could be males, it could be females, they could be men, women, children, older people, knowledgeable people, people who are experts in speech, people who are speakers for a living, people who are doing this, that and the other for a living, people who have never been to a speech before, people who are just looking at your tie or your dress or the way that you actually speak rather than the content of what you're actually saying. Either way, if you beg them to listen and laugh about it, you're just saying, hey, look, I'm nervous, that's it. I mean, it's a reality, so please listen. But you know what? It turns out to be a joke anyway. Another way that you can actually try and get in their good books, as you might say, is apologize and say you are just not great at giving speeches. It's just not your forte. It's not exactly what you'd like them to know about, but hey, it's the reality. You're not great at giving speeches. So apologize. Say, hey guy, I just don't know what to say here, but I'm not great at this. Please help me out. I mean, is there anybody here that can help me out? So that's the fifth way. If we go to another way, let's look at the sixth way. The sixth way is kind of touched on earlier on. It's about actually telling a person, asking a person to come out of the audience and come up on stage with you. So make them the focus of attention. But of course, you need to do this in a very positive way. How can you do that in a positive way? Well, you need to actually get them to eat out of your hand in the first place, and don't stumble on your words like I just did, because if you do, well, that ain't a good way of doing it. Or is it? It can be. Yes, it can be. It can be the seventh way of starting a speech. Because if you go out there and you stumble on your words and say, I'm going to get somebody to eat out of my hand, and they say, what? What's up? What's he saying? That's the seventh way that you can start a speech. Because straight away they're going to laugh at you and you're just relaxing them. Just remember, you're making them feel good. If you make people feel good, they're going to reciprocate. They're going to laugh at you, laughing at yourself. And that's a wonderful way of doing things. The next way, the eighth way, we're soon at 10, don't worry. I'm sorry to bore you. If you haven't already, please do watch to the end. And remember, you'll get 10 good ways of how to start a speech and be successful in that way. Trust me. Thank you if you have already watched and you're rewinding back, because I want to say please subscribe if I haven't said it already. And I know you will, because you are smart and there are other videos coming along. So subscribe and you will see how. So let's go to the next way. The next way is your dress, your attire. So the eighth way of starting a speech. Think of it this way. If you've ever been in a job interview, you actually, well, you should at least dress up and dress in a good manner, in a way that befits the actual job or the position. You want to show first impressions. And essentially a speech, walking on that stage, getting out there in front of people, is about first impressions. So dress like you mean it. Dress exactly with what you are going to go about saying. If you're a professional person, for example, you need to wear a suit. If you're a pilot and you're talking about something in the air, well then you can wear your uniform. So you need to actually dress accordingly. The next way, of course, is to actually give them the ending first. Give them the ending first, yes. So what is the point of this whole kind of speech in the first place? It is perhaps about how you are the expert in, let's say, money. You want to make money, you tell them, hey, you want $1 million? Here it is. No, I'm not saying give it to them, but just say, here is the cut and short of it. The reality is you need to do X, Y, and Z. Now check out my videos on that, 4 ways to be successful and be rich. And you'll see exactly what the habits are out there. Give them the ending before, and they will really wonder the nuts and bolts of how you actually got to that ending, because you know what? They don't have the money in their pocket yet. So you got to tell them they need to learn how. The last way then, of course, the 10th golden way of starting a speech is, well, you can just essentially give them a story. A story is so, so good. Get out there and give them a story. Start the story. Once upon a time, now, hey, you're going to be nervous in all these things, all these speeches. So once upon a time is the first line of every story that we learned as children. And if you haven't learned those stories as children, trust me, they're good stories. Get out there and read them. Get out there and listen and watch them. So if you start with a story, you are actually starting with what they know as a child. So once upon a time, I stood on stage and people laugh. And if that's all your beginning story is for the first minute or so, you've got them eating out of the palm of your hand. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't already. And if you do, make sure that you watch other videos, because there's more coming. So comments below and just see and suggest what you'd like to see, and we will get cooking with that.